Sudhijana Sumandaram Sudhindra Sutasevakam Sushamindra Gurum Vande Sujayindra Karodbhavam. We look at Bhagavad Gita is a treatise telling you how to undertake your activities. It is the greatest treatise on managing oneself. Managing oneself within the framework of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. All these four purusharthas, four objectives will have to be fulfilled in every activity you do. The basic message of Bhagavad Gita can be stated in one line. It is prescribing to Arjuna to do his Kshatriya dharma in what is called as Nivritta Karmanusthana framework. See, karmas are done in two ways. One is Pravritta karma, another is Nivritta karma. Pravritta karma is the normal things which we do, with certain mundane goals in mind, with certain desired objectives in mind, which are highly mundane and of low level. So they are Pravritta karma. Sakama karma, Nishkama karma. Similarly, Nivritta karma, but as in contrast to Pravritta karma is Nivritta karmanusthana. Nivritta karmanusthana has essentially four components, as is stated in Bhagavad Gita in the whole. I am trying to succinctly, summarize as to what is the ultimate message of Lord Krishna to Arjuna. And he repeats it 100 times, many times in Bhagavad Gita. That is, you do your duty in the Nivritta Karmanusthana framework. Nivritta Karmanusthana, as I said, has four components. One is doing one's prescribed function, Varnashrama Vihita Dharma. First component is your prescribed functions, Varnashrama Vihita Karma. Varnashrama Vihita Karma, in the traditional sense, in the olden days, there were four Varnas and four ashramas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. These. And dharmas, as per Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Mahabharata, Anuशासनिक Parva, and many other sources, dharma was very clearly spelt out in terms of these fourfold categories of people. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. These were nothing but socio-economic, socio-cultural, socio-religious classification of the society. In fact, we have now today given so much of negative connotation to this socio-economic or socio-cultural order that we have not understood its import, and we have ruined the main purpose of this Varnashrama system. But today, of course, Varnashrama system has been sine qua non as discrimination, exploitation, suppression. So that is something which I feel has arisen because of our wrong understanding of Varnashrama dharma. Today we have got various categories. IAS officers are there, IFS officers are there, IAS officers are there, engineers are there, doctors are there, managers are there, teachers are there, clerks are there, peons are there, subordinates are there, seniors are there. These are all the varnas, these are all the different classes, different professions. So Paramatma says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. Chaturvarnyam, the four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are created by me as per the guna and karma, their attributes and karma. Brahmana, true Brahmana, is supposed to be, what is the etymological meaning of Brahmana? Brahma anati iti Brahmanaha, anapana gatau, gatyartha dhatunam jnanarthakatvam. Brahma anati, the one who tries to understand and analyze Brahma, the Parabrahma, or Chaturmukha Brahma, or Ishvara, one who is pursuing the path of the study of the scriptures and the related texts to understand Brahma. It is only possible by Manushya, Manavas. I told that Manava is the entity in the class of creations of Paramatma who has a better endowment of buddhi. See, Brahmava Bodha Dhishanam Mudamapa Devaha. That is what Bhagavata says. When he created Manava, when he created means when Manava came on the earth, we don't believe in this Darwin theory of evolution of creatures. Paramatma is capable of creating all the objects at one go. So when Manava was created, was there on the earth, so Paramatma was satisfied, was happy, because I have got one entity which has buddhi and which can understand me and try to understand me. You see? So Brahma Anati iti Brahmanaha, the one who pursues the path of scriptures and understanding the studies and Vedas is Brahmana. Kshatriya, see, is the one who is having valor and protection. See, Brahmano Mukamasit. See, Brahmana was born from the Siras and Kshatriya from the Bahu, and Siras, this Vaishya from the thigh, and Shudra from, it's not from the feet. You know, as one interpreter and the commentator has given, Mukha, the Siras symbolizes Brahmana, Bahu symbolizes the Kshatriya, thigh symbolizes the Vaishya, Pada, which stands for service, symbolizes the Shudra. It is not meant to say that Shudra is at the end of the hierarchy. See, without Pada you can't travel, you can't go. Pada is very important limb of our body, you know. So hierarchy was not intended according to me and according to the scriptures. It is only the indication of the professions. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These were even the Purusha Sukta, which gives the way in which these varnas and ashramas were created, where they came to exist with us, give us an idea that they are objectively designed to represent certain professions and occupations of life. Anyway, so my purpose is to say here that the Bhagavad Gita is a treatise on managing oneself, and dharmas in those days were prescribed by these varna and ashrama. So coming back to the concept of nivritta karmanusthana, it is stated that you should abide by the prescriptions of the varna and ashrama to which you belong. So Yajnavalkya Smriti says varna dharma, ashrama dharma, varnashrama dharma, guna dharma, nimitta dharma, naimittika dharma, and sadharana dharma. In these categories, dharmas are prescribed and described and categorized and detailed, you see. So very profound way of looking at what dharma is. Dharma is the prescription of do's and don'ts for the different categories of people. So dharma, and then artha is, as I said, acquiring Devi Sampat in terms of good virtuous values and attributes, and kama is to have the right kind of desire to function, and then moksha is to have the highest efficiency with highest perfection to get ultimate bliss in every activity. So in that sense, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, interpreted in this practical way, which are again the essence of the Vedas and also Bhagavad Gita, would tell you that they are the goals of everyday life. So in the nivritta karmanusthana, first component is to understand what are the prescriptions of duties. A manager is described, is given a duty list. A new officer in the office is given a new duty list. As soon as he joins, he says, these are your do's and don'ts. He is given a duty list. A chartered accountant, when he joins, or an accounts officer is given a duty list. So in that sense, the first component of nivritta karma is to understand this duty list properly. So don't go by Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Now go by the 100 professions that exist with us. So each profession, each activity, each job has a number of duties prescribed. Now, How do you perform these duties? The second component of nivritta karmanusthana is to do these prescribed duties without phalapeksha. Phalapeksha rahitya. It's a very profound component of the nivritta karmanusthana theory, karma theory. That is why Paramatma says, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahetur bhoho ma te sangostva karmani. Again, we came to know about this sloka only because of the Mahabharata serials, not by studying Bhagavad Gita. I think we must know this sloka by studying Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. That means your responsibility. Once again, the word adhikara is most misinterpreted term. We always say he is an adhikari. Adhikara is interpreted as rights. No. Adhikara really means responsibility. Karmani eva adhikaraha. That means your responsibility is to do your prescribed duty. Don't see this way or that way. Be like a horse with its, eyes closed from the different directions. Look at one direction, prescribed functions. So that is so then phalapeksha rahitya means the karmas have got many rewards. See, if a laborer in a factory is working, the ultimate product that comes out of the process in various stages is the product, is the outcome. Does an individual laborer have a right over it, an ownership on it? No. He has only ownership on whatever little contribution he is making. So it's in fact in the economic theory it is called as marginal productivity wage model. That is, you should be given wages only to the extent you contribute in addition to the contributions of others, and you should be rewarded according to that. So phalapeksha rahitya or karmanyevadhikaraste is the most misinterpreted sloka in the world. Westerners say that Indian philosophy, karma theory of Bhagavad Gita, teaches exploitation. It teaches, the labor to be exploited. You should only toil, you should only do. The managers and the CEOs and the companies have every right or every acquisition of the profits. So don't ask how did they use their profits. That is not the thing. It is the most profound karma theory, most profound work culture, most profound labor discipline to say that each one should do his duties without having obsession about the rewards. I tell you, this component of karma theory is the most fundamental component to give efficiency to your work. I give a very mundane example. Suppose you are working, a student is studying. His goal is to have maximum 95% marks. Without that, his parents and gurus say you won't get admissions. So he has to get 95, 96, 97, 99% marks. That is his goal. Okay, that is phala. Now, you take two types of students. One student concentrates on his studies. The other student is always having his mind on this ultimate result. That is, I must get 99%, 95%. My father has said, my teacher has said, my peers, friends have said this is the ultimate goal. Now, if the mind is obsessed about these phala always, then what would the student do? What is he likely to do? He would try to find out some other dubious ways of getting this phala. He would not concentrate on his studies, but he would say, who could be the examiner? Who could be the paper setter? How can I get the paper leaked? How can I bribe the examiner or my teacher to get more marks for me so that my ultimate goal is realized? So if you are obsessed about the rewards, similarly take an officer in an office. He is very much keen to get promotions. Who is not liking to have promotions? Everybody wants to go to the next stage in the career. So promotion. So there are two things. One is to do your job perfectly, and the other is to always think of the promotion. The person who is always obsessed about the phalas would deviate from this intensity of his work. He would find out what are the likes and dislikes of the boss. Does he like if I bring vegetables to his wife, bring fruits to his wife every day, or go to his house with a bouquet and a gift on important days? Would he not promote me by doing that? So obsession about the rewards would force us to get into dubious methods of doing our job or getting our job. And obviously these fail. These will not, even if they don't fail, they will not give you the joy of doing the work perfectly, efficiently. So phalapeksha rahitya is not an indication of exploitation, it's not an indication of prescription that you should not think of phalas. In fact, on the contrary, the labor culture, the labor system of Bhagavad Gita, I call it as a Bhagavad Gita theory of labor, theory of work. It always says that you should have a goal, you should have a vision, you should have an ardent desire to achieve this vision. But don't be obsessed about it while you are implementing your tasks, your prescribed functions. So the second component of work culture of Bhagavad Gita is not to worry about the rewards all along, not be over obsessed about the rewards. That is the meaning of phalapeksha rahitya. Now the third modality, third component of Bhagavad Gita theory of culture, theory of work culture, is that Bhagavad Aradhana Buddhi. If you do your work with a personal agenda in mind, that is, I must have this share in the fruits of the work and I should have this result, then you would again not do your work perfectly. But if you do it as a service to the corporate sector, as a service to the mankind, as a service to the nation, as a service to the society, ultimately as an aradhana of Paramatma, who is the owner of all the resources in the ultimate analysis. Ishavasyam idam sarvam et kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjithaha mahagridha kasya svidhanam. This is the prescription of Ishavasya Upanishad. All the resources of the universe are owned by Paramatma. It is the highest order of socialism, not Karl Marx or other people who prescribe the socialism. Our Ishavasya Upanishad prescribes the highest order of socialism by saying that you have no ownership also of resources. He owns ultimately. For you, you have to only get only that part which is legitimately required for your existence. Tena tyaktena bhunjitaha, tena dattena. Tyaktena means dattena bhunjitaha, mahagridha kasya svidhanam. Don't expropriate the other's share for your benefit. So that is the Bhagavad Aradhana Buddhi. And this would come if your work, sometimes we say, that person is such a tremendous, is a gem of a person. He works only for the society. He has no personal ambition or personal ingredient in that. But we have also instances saying, oh, that minister, that CEO, that officer only works for what he can get out of it. He has his own relatives around. He would like to benefit them. So he would have a personal agenda. He would not consider what is the role of that activity for the benefit of mankind, for the nation. He would only think what share he will get. In fact, what share do I get in the 5 years of my existence as a minister? No, I'm just giving as an example. So, if your mind is not set for doing your work for the robust cause of nation building, robust cause of human welfare, the robust cause of global peace, then you would be erring in doing wrong things. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita theory of work culture gives you very profound basis for working for global peace and human welfare. So third component is Bhagavad Aradhana Buddhi. All right, I accept all these. I do my prescribed work. I look at my duty list every day. I have kept beneath the table, beneath the glass top of my table. I look at it, what I have done yesterday, what should I do today. I decide my agenda of the work and finish my files every day. So I am strictly conforming to the prescribed work of do's and don'ts. So I won't meddle with other departments. When I am a chartered accountant, I do my work. When I am a technical expert, I do my technology work. I will not meddle with other aspects. So do's and don'ts you have followed. Then I do my work without any obsession about the rewards. I have fulfilled. And I also do my work for the corporate sector, for the nation, for the society, for the mankind. So all these are fulfilled. But when you do like this, quite often you may get into an arrogance that I have done it. Many people are really having that arrogance, that swatantra kartritva abhimana, that I have done it. So that is why an Acharya, Madhvacharya has said, Naham karta, harih karta, tat puja karma chakhilam. I am not the performer. See, later on in Bhagavad Gita, while describing a sattvika karta, the definition of sattvika karta is given in a beautiful manner. It is said, Mukta Sango, Anaham Vadi, Dhrityutsaha Samanvitaha, Siddha Siddhyoho Nirvikaraha, Karta Sattvika Uchate. A sattvika karta. So karta is categorized as sattvika karta, rajasa karta and tamasa karta. Sattvika karta or sattvika performer is the one who is mukta sangaha, who does his work dispassionately, without attachments. Attachment means not involvement, not without involvement. He would be deeply involved in his work, but he would not have attachment as it is my own, it is mine, I should benefit from it. No, without that kind of feeling, attachment. Then second, he would be anaham vadi. He would never say that I did it. So there, he would negate his kartritva abhimana. See, if the officer who is working perfectly with all these three components, but if he says always, he brags to everyone, oh, I cleared that file, I achieved that project, it was impossible for my boss also to do, I did it. If he keeps on bragging like that, then his efficiency would be reduced. His joy would be reduced. The joy of the system would be reduced. Everywhere there could be some sort of negative forces operating. So therefore, the fourth component of Nivritta Karmanusthana is Swatantra Kartritva Abhimana Rahitya. So the ultimate message of Bhagavad Gita is to Arjuna to tell him, you do your Kshatriya Dharma, Yuddha, not to get your kingdom. I am not telling you that you kill your enemies and get your kingdom, but you kill the adharmis, you destroy them. Kill is not the correct word. You destroy the adharma that has perpetuated, that is your Kshatriya Dharma, and you do it so that is your prescribed function. You do it without obsession about the rewards, and you do it as an aradhana to me, Bhagavad Aradhana Buddhi, and you do it without any vanity. No, even the Arjuna was not free from vanity. He was having tremendous ego that I did it. You know the story that after Mahabharata Yuddha, everybody of the Kauravas were killed and Pandavas were victorious. Somehow Arjuna got the vanity. Arjuna was also subject to ajnana. Arjuna was not a perfect human being. That is why the entire Bhagavad Gita came, Arjuna asked Krishna, hey, charioteer, you get down. So by that time he had the ego that I have conquered, I have been victorious. So he asked the Krishna, you get down. So he ordered it with a tone. Krishna was very surprised. He was shocked. He said, Baba, so long I have held you, you are asking me and treating me as a charioteer, as a sarathi. By that time he had got ego, vanity. How damaging it is. Many times there are stories in Mahabharata where Arjuna had vanity and then God corrects him. And Krishna says, don't forget, so I am the Sarathi, I know what is what, so you get on first. It is documented in Mahabharata. So Arjuna gets down. Ultimately he had to, because he was his Sakha and somehow he gets, many times Krishna Paramatma has given to him shock treatments, rebuking him, abusing him, highly downgrading him. I will tell you, I will come to that. In fact, all this I am telling is a little beyond what I wanted to say. But he rebukes him. So he says, no, get down, you get down. Arjuna gets down, and then Krishna Paramatma gets down. Then Maruti, who was in the flag, Kapidhwaja, he goes away from the Dhwaja. Then what happens? The chariot gets completely into ashes. It falls down, it collapses. So Arjuna's vanity was so dangerous. If he had insisted that Krishna should get down, then Kapi would have gone away, then Arjuna would have been burnt in the chariot. So don't have the vanity. So the last thing is no ego of you are doing. So these four components tell to us most practical guidelines for our everyday activity. Anything which we do. I am doing pravachana, so I must take it as my prescribed function. I have been called to do that. Second, I must do it without any obsession for rewards. I will get this, I will get that. Then I will be doing it very well. Thirdly, I should do it as a service to Lord. It's a seva to Lord Venkateshwara, to Raghavendra Swamigalu, to the entire mankind. And thirdly, I should not have the ego. But still ego comes, vanity comes, all these are comes, you are human beings. But to the extent you reduce them, the joy coming out of Nivritta Karmanusthana is almost closer to the joy which you get in moksha, ultimate bliss. So therefore, moksha can be realized in this very world, you see. And I also say, Swarga and Naraka are not somewhere beyond the globe, beyond the earth. So my purpose is to give mundanized or practical versions of these concepts. Swarga, what is the etymology of Swarga? Swaha means wealth. Niswaha means a highly destituted person, not having any wealth, any capital, any money. So Swaha is Swaha, Swas Shabda, Swaha, Swar Shabda, and Swaha means wealth or capital or money or happiness arising out of that. Swaha Gamayati iti Swargaha. That means the place which gets you certain kind of happiness, certain kind of well-being, certain kind of good feeling. So Swarga, status of Swarga can be realized when you have done good things in life. Then Naraka, what is meant by Naraka? The etymology of Naraka means ka, the ka pratyaya applies whenever you have kuchitarthe ka pratyaha. Narakaha means a condemned human being, condemned man. You go to hell, you go to Naraka. That means the fellow will be so much, humiliated, disreputed. His image is so much downtrodden. Even in this world itself, all the media write against him. He is totally sent to hell, sent to Naraka. See, so Narakaha means you become a Nara who is highly humiliated, highly condemned. Swarga, you reach a status where you get happiness. So similarly, Punya and Papa, what do they mean? Punya and Papa are not something which are attached to us somewhere. Punya is nothing but a positive thinking attitude. See, you will be having Punya. When you do a good thing, you would always be excited to do more such good things. Your mind is always working so sharply, and you are always having very positive attitude, positive approach to everything, all the challenges. So Punyashali, that means he is having very enthusiastic approach to anything. Then Papa, when you have done something wrong, always it is sticking to your mind and making you feel very small, very inefficient, very incompetent, and it sets you to negative thinking. So I put Punya as the reservoir of positive forces and Papa as an attitude of negative forces. So all these concepts which have been there in our Shastras, in our entire system of Adhyatmic Prapancha, Adhyatmika Jagat, have been highly misdirected. To be useful for our everyday life, we must see their underlying spirits, underlying forces. Then you will understand the purpose for which they were created. They were all meant, as I said, adukkham itarat sarvam jiva evatu dukkhinaha tesham dukkha prahanaya srutiresha pravartate. The entire world, except the human beings, except the beings, do not experience dukkha. The Jata Padartha, we don't know whether it experiences dukkha, it doesn't anyway. But so beings experience, and jiva evatu dukkhinaha, all the living beings have the ability or the opportunity or the danger of experiencing dukkha. And therefore, Vedas have been enunciated to give the guidelines, the modalities for getting out of this dukkha situation. So you should have the proper sukha. So in this spirit, if you take the different concepts that have come out, then you will realize they have a very practical, down-to-earth connotations. I already mentioned yajna, how that is misinterpreted. Yajna does not mean throwing havis in the fire only. So of course that meaning is derived for all activities. Sahayajna praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishadvam eshavostu ishtakamadhuk devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapsatha ishtan bhogan nivo devaha dasyante yajna bhavitaha taidittana pradayebhyaha yobhungte stena evasaha. So this is Bhagavad Gita sloka. God created all the beings along with yajna. Does it mean that every being should from birth start doing havis and throw in the fire and so on? Sahayajnaha prajaha srishtva pura uvacha prajapatihi. Prajapatihi could be interpreted to mean either Parabrahma or Chaturbukha Brahma on the command of Parabrahma. So he created the beings, all the prajas, all the entities in the universe, along with yajnas. Along with yajnas means their capabilities. I am repeating, I told in my very first lecture, that a bee is created with the ability to suck the honey from the flowers and store them in the beehive. A spider is created with the ability to create a network and have the insects fall in it, and it will have the food for the next day or store it for several days. So man is given the ability to think, to innovate, to have new technologies, to produce agriculture, industry, services. All these activities he is endowed to do, and he should produce more and get the joy out of it. So that is the meaning of Saha Yajnaha. All these activities are yajnas. So yajnas are activities and also capabilities. My breathing is an yajna. Taking ahara is an yajna. And any activity is yajna. So there, in every activity, there is a conception of a fire, there is a conception of havis, there is a conception of yajamana, there is a conception of purohita, then throwing this havis in the fire. All these are explained. But in general, yajna is not just the physical throw of havis in the fire. Every activity of ours is yajna. You see, throwing food in the stomach is jataragni. Angushtamatram jatare pratishthitam jajvalyamanam mama jata vedasam nityam hitam vishwadahancha vittatam vishvesha cheta iti so pravittada. So he says that this is the story in Madhvacharya. When he ate, he is supposed to have eaten 200 bananas, kelas, after the food. Then somebody asked him, oh, how did it vanish? He says, there is an angushtamatra jataragni, and that is capable of even burning the entire universe. This 200 kelas is what? I have burnt it by using that jataragni. So he gave, there is a symbolic expression of the power of jataragni. So in that sense, that is also an yajna, sahajna. So yajna, all these conceptions are wrongly. Swarga, naraka, punya, papa, purushartha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha have lot of relevance for our everyday life, and if we understand them in that light, we will be able to appreciate the messages from Vedas and Bhagavad Gita. Now, we have started Bhagavad Gita, which is the first adhyaya, as Vishada Yoga, where Arjuna is depressed. And as I said, Raghavendra Swamigalu gives the definition of Vishada as Moha Nimittakat, Shokat, en Manodaurbhalyam, Yasmin Sati Sarva Vyaparo Paramaha Bhavati, Saha Vishadaha. Vishada is a status of depression. Every one of us, we get into depression. The root cause for this depression, as the definition of Vishada goes, is Moha. Moha means misunderstanding, somewhere wrong understanding. Then that wrong understanding leads to shoka. That means a little bit of sadness, a little bit of sorrow. Then that sadness takes you to a situation of mental weakness. The mind becomes weak. And when the mind becomes weak, you are in a very terrific situation of not desiring to do anything. Sarva vyaparo paramaha bhavati saha vishadaha. Take for instance, when somebody in the home, X comes to her house saying that, look at your neighbor, she was talking about you like this. I'm just imagining, that is a possible, So many such, and then in the office, you always say, oh, the boss is always talking negatively about you. X comes and says, you have not accosted the boss at all. So you don't know what is his feeling, what is his thought. Or somebody goes to the boss saying that, oh, X is never working on his files, he is never to be found on the desk. So the boss starts thinking negatively about the person concerned. And so that is the moha. Moha is misunderstanding, negative understanding, wrong understanding. Then that leads to a certain shoka, sadness. In the mind of the boss, a sadness comes. Oh, I appointed him, I called him to join here, but he is doing like this, a sadness. And then once sadness comes, then a little bit of weakness of the mind sets in. And when the weakness of the mind comes, he never thinks of promoting him or putting good remarks on his file. Similarly, the housewife, when without verifying what X said about her in the presence of Y is correct or not, she starts having sadness and then manodaurbhalya and sarva vyaparo parama and depression, vishada. So Raghavendra Swamigalu gives a beautiful definition of Vishada, and that was the situation of Arjuna. Moha, Shoka, Manodaurbhalya, Sarva Vyaparo Parama. So he was in the depressed state. At the end of the first adhyaya, he was in the depressed state of Vishada. And why? What was his moha? Moha was the feeling that the Kauravas, the Adharmis, are his kith and kin. There are gurus, there are brothers, there are relatives. That was the moha. So by destroying them, I will be destroying the kith and kin. That is misunderstanding. Why? Because his proper understanding should have been that he is a Kshatriya. It is his duty to destroy adharma. Suppose if a judge is sitting on the bench and he is giving judgment, suddenly he finds that the accused produced before him is a close relative of his. And then does he apply the rule of the law and issue decree of the justice, or he would think that he is my person, I must really, that most of the time may happen, I don't have any reflection on that. But so if he does that he is my man, so I must really not do my duty perfectly, that is moha. Then once the moha is there, a shoka comes, and then manodaurbhalya comes, and then sarva vyaparo parama. Sarva vyapara uparama. Uparama means cessation, complete stopping of all activities. The housewife will sit in a corner, the judge will brood over the case for a long time. How do I really save that person? So he would not be, finding interest in many of his activities. The boss will always be trying to avoid that person. saying that if I talk to him, that person may ask why he is not promoted. So he would get into all sorts of sarva vyaparoparam. So that is due to Vishada. And Arjuna had done his analysis. So as I said, in the first Adhyaya, there are two models of decision makers, Duryodhana and Arjuna. What did they do? I have explained yesterday, but still we will recapitulate. Duryodhana did not do the analysis. These are two extreme models of decision makers. Duryodhana was one decision maker model and Arjuna stands for another decision maker model. Duryodhana did not do much analysis. He came to his own conclusions. And Duryodhana did not have faith in his own people. Duryodhana did not have much of self-confidence. Pasyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamom Yudham Drupadaputrena Tapasishyena Dhimata. So one of the commentators says, the sloka says, Acharya Panduputranam Mahatim Chamom Pasya. But while saying that, he is almost hinting, Panduputranam Acharya Etam Mahatim Chamom Pasya. So he is considering Dronacharya as the Acharya of Panduputras, not the Acharya for him. Though in the younger days, Dronacharya had taught Dhanurvidya to all of them, but as a true teacher, he had preferred the efficient Arjuna and the righteous Pandavas to be victorious. So, when he addresses Dronacharya as Panduputranam Acharya, he shows no trust in them. And when he says that whether we get Vijaya or not, aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam param paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhimabhirakshitam. He says their army protected by Bhima is enough for them for their victory. Our army, though protected by Bhishmacharya, is not enough for us for our victory. So he is nourishing a fear, a sense of diffidence, a sense of lack of confidence. So a manager who does not have trust in others, who is not confident in himself, and who does not do much analysis is doomed to fail. So Duryodhana stands for the extreme model of decision maker. Then Arjuna stands for another, not exactly extreme, but another model of decision maker. He does his analysis. He says, if I kill this happens, and so on. So he does a lot of analysis. But his analysis is faulty. Why? Because his model of analysis did not contain one parameter, namely doing his duty as a Kshatriya. Performance of duty as a Kshatriya, he did not conform to it. Therefore, his model was faulty. But Arjuna was a better model of decision maker because he thought that something fishy in my model and I must consult someone. So he goes to Krishna Paramatma and says that, tell me what is appropriate. I am not able to reconcile. Nakankshe Vijayam Krishna, Nacharajyam Sukhanicha, Kinno Rajyena Govinda, Kim Bhogayat Jivitenava, Eshamarthe Kanchitamno, Rajyam Bhoga Sukhanicha. So he says, tell me what is right. I don't know whether we would be victorious or not. He is also having some diffidence. But still, the different thing which he did from Duryodhana was to go to Krishna Paramatma, who is a symbol of perfection, good advice. So two models of decision making, one never does an analysis, the other who does an analysis but has a little doubt about his analysis and goes to an advisor. So we should prefer the second model. Of course, in between these two, there could be several shades of models of decision makers. Somebody may go to an advisor, but not appoint an advisor, but never listen to him. He may dump him. He may impose his decisions on him. He may bureaucratically or autocratically say that you give me this advice. So he is not a model. He is not a model to be pursued, not to be model to be emulated. But Arjuna, what does he say to Krishna? Sishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. So he says, I am your disciple. You tell me what needs to be done. What is to be, I will follow your decision. Then Krishna, as a good advisor, I am giving, so what does he do? What are the steps involved in what Krishna says? The first thing, as a good advisor, he does is he rebukes Arjuna. He says, whatever you are thinking is wrong, is absolutely nonsense. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam anaryajushtam asvargyam akirtikaram arjuna klaibyam masmagamah partha naitatvayi upapadyate kshudram hridaya dorbalyam taktvottishta parantapa. So he says, first he rebukes him. So a good advisor, a good elderly person at home should first rebuke the child. There are, as I said, Bhagavad Gita tells us many lessons, gives us many lessons of human psychology, human relations, how to deal with each other. So whenever an errand child is there at home, first rebuke him. Say that what nonsense are you doing? But don't end up in doing only that. So Krishna Paramatma says that kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam. At this awkward time, how did you get this awkward thought, very serious, dangerous thought? Then he addresses him as Arjuna. So the meaning of Arjuna is very important. Arjuna means somebody who is white, who is never doing anything wrong, who is always on the righteous path. In fact, Arjuna himself tells why he got this name to Uttara. The Uttara Gograhada time, Arjuna as a Brahannala goes as a charioteer, and when they come to the tree of Shamivriksha, where all their ayudhas are kept, and when the period of Vanavasa had been finished, Arjuna himself opens up by telling to Uttara. He asks when they reach that spot, they say, Uttara, he asks Uttara to get down and sit in the chariot, and he take to the reins to the horses, and he will do the fighting. Arjuna, what does he say to Krishna? Sishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. So he says, I am your disciple. You tell me what needs to be done. What is to be, I will follow your disciple. Then Krishna, as a good advisor, I am giving, so what does he do? What are the steps involved in what Krishna says? The first thing, as a good advisor, he does is he rebukes Arjuna. He says, whatever you are thinking is wrong, is absolutely nonsense. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam anaryajushtam asvargyam akirtikaram arjuna klaibyam masmagamah partha naitatvayi upapadyate kshudram hridaya dorbalyam taktvottishta parantapa. So he says, first he rebukes him. So a good advisor, a good elderly person at home should first rebuke the child. There are, as I said, Bhagavad Gita tells us many lessons, gives us many lessons of human psychology, human relations, how to deal with each other. So whenever an errand child is there at home, first rebuke him. Say that what nonsense are you doing? But don't end up in doing only that. So Krishna Paramatma says that kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam. At this awkward time, how did you get this awkward thought, very serious, dangerous thought? Then he addresses him as Arjuna. So the meaning of Arjuna is very important. Arjuna means somebody who is white, who is never doing anything wrong, who is always on the righteous path. In fact, Arjuna himself tells why he got this name to Uttara. The Uttara Gograhada time, Arjuna as a Brahannala goes as a charioteer, and when they come to the tree of Shamivriksha, where all their ayudhas are kept, and when the period of Vanavasa had been finished, Arjuna himself opens up by telling to Uttara. He asks when they reach that spot, they say, Uttara, he asks Uttara to get down and sit in the chariot, and he take to the reins to the horses, and he will do the fighting. Uttara would not have done the fighting. So at that time he says that Prithivyam Chaturantayam varno me durlabha samaha karomi karma shuklam cha tasman mam arjunam viduhu. Uttara asks Arjuna, what are the 10 names of yours? I have learnt in my childhood that Arjuna has got 10 names. Which are those 10 names? Arjuna Phalguno, Jishnuh Phalguno, Jishnuh, Kiriti Svetavahanaha, Bibhatsur Vijayah Krishnaha, Savyasachi Dhananjayaha. These are the 10 names. So tell me which are the 10 names, then I would believe that you are Arjuna. And he tells 10 names. Then he asks, how did you get each of these names? So Krishna, Arjuna, beautiful portion there, the conversation between Uttara and Arjuna. Then Arjuna narrates how he got the name as Arjuna, Phalguna, Bibhatsu, Vijaya, Svetavahana, Krishna, all these names he gives etymology and the meanings. So for Arjuna he says, I got the name Arjuna because I am always righteous person. I never do wrong things. And I am the most fair complexioned person in the entire 3 worlds. See? Prithvivyam chaturantayam varno me durlabhasamaha. So, what does Krishna do? What method he adopts? He rebukes Arjuna as to why you got this thought, and at the same time tells, or rather indicates to Arjuna to do rethinking. See, we have to tell the child, Beta, you are always shana. You have been very intelligent, you have got good marks, but why are you thinking like this now? So as soon as you rebuke, you also give to him a sense of an opportunity to rethink. Then in the next line, he addresses Arjuna as Parantapa. Now these are all the very subtle messages that come from Bhagavad Gita for our everyday life of human relations, of conversation. Now I tell you, I give you examples as to how the Sambodhana Shabdas in Bhagavad Gita, each one is very appropriate. So here, Krishna addressing Arjuna as Arjuna is very meaningful. Then he also says, Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna Klaibyam Masmagamah Partha Naitatvai Upapadyate Kshudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Tyaktvottishta Parantapa. He uses 3 Sambodhana Shabdas in these 2 slokas. First Arjuna, then with passion, with some sort of compassion, with some sort of affection, he addresses him as Partha. Partha means what? Prithayaha sunuhu Partha. Kunti putra. My sister's son you are. Why are you getting into this? Partha. Please rethink. Don't get into this wrong. Who advised you? How did you get into it? So first he rebukes, then he shows compassion, then he awake, arise and conquer. Parantapa. Sklaibyam masmagamah partha naitatvai upapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvottishta parantapa. Parantapa means what? Param tapayati iti parantapaha. Param tapati, tapa alochane, param tapati iti tapaha. So parantapa means you have the capability of destroying the enemies, and you have the capability of reflecting upon Param, Paramatma, Parabrahma. You are able to do both the heroic task as a Kshatriya. You have also capability to do the meditational task of a good human being. You see? So he says Param Tapati, and you can do your Kshatriya Dharma as a service to Paramatma because you have the capability to think about Paramatma. Param Tapayati iti Parantapaha, Param Tapati iti Parantapaha. Tapa Alochane. See? So always when Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma was created, it is said that there was a voice, Tapa, Tapa, Tapa. So he did the penance for a long number of thousands and thousands of years. Then started creating at the instance of Parabrahma. So Tapa is etymology, or the root is Tapa Alochane. So Parantapa. So see the sequence of things how Krishna deals with him. So any elder who has to deal with the errand boy or the girl, or any officer who has to deal with an errand junior officer, or any politician who has to deal with the wrongdoing members of the party, they have to adopt these 3 components simultaneously in good sequence. You see, a good manager has to first pull up the junior and immediately arouse in him a sense of confidence by telling that he has capabilities, and thirdly, you enthuse in him a spirit of adventure. and doing things properly. All the three components of human relations are explained here. You will get these inferences after long periods of reflections on Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is such a treatise, everyone gets inspiration from this for different moments of life. So after doing this, Krishna Paramatma starts dealing with Arjuna in a systematic manner. He did not just rebuke him and go to hell. Baba, I don't want you this. Why did you waste my time? I went to as a Shantidota, and at the instance of all of you, I negotiated war. I did not allow Shanti to be negotiated, and I have come back here. But now you are telling me that you don't want to do war. What is this nonsense? He would have said, go to hell. I will go to Dwarka or whatever it is and be happy. He did not do that. He systematically dealt with Arjuna in the entire Bhagavad Gita. First is to remove his moha, his misunderstanding. Secondly, to remove his shoka. And then remove his manodaurbhalya, and then arouse him to do the right thing ultimately. Then he gives such practical tips for right things. All the different aspects of life he deals with in the different adhyayas. And then in between, to arouse lot of faith and admiration. Though Arjuna had admiration for Krishna Paramatma, he wanted to arouse more of admiration in him by showing Vishwarupa Darshana. That is the ultimate of Bhagavad Gita. In the 11th Adhyaya, Vishwarupa Darshana, and Arjuna is totally fallen back on Krishna Paramatma. And so he says at the end, Nashto mohaha smritir labdha tvat prasadan mayachyuta. So Krishna adopts a very systematic approach of dealing with the dilemma of Arjuna. Instead of rebuking him just and throwing him down the hill, so moha. So he first goes through him to deal with the moha, his misunderstanding. See, misunderstanding has two levels. One is to understand that killing is bad, to say that Jiva dies. And Krishna Paramatma first says, Baba, Jiva does not die. Jiva is Nitya. As I am Nitya, Jiva is also Nitya. And so it has no Natvevaham jatunasam natvam ashochyananvashochastvam prajnavadanscha bhashase gatasu nagatasuncha nanu shochanti panditaha. So if you want to be called as a pandita, if you want to be considered as a person with good reasoning power, don't remorse on things which are not to be remorsed. Don't talk such big things. Prajnavadanscha bhashase. There the commentators say Prajnavadan means Prajnavadanscha bhashase in a taunting manner. You talk big things, bade logon ke jaise bol rahe wo. Then Prajna Avadan, you talk something which are not acceptable by the knowledgeable people. Prajna plus Avada athva Prajna Vada. Third meaning is Prajna is your own intellect. Whatever occurs to your brain, you are talking. That is not really the correct interpretation of Shastras or the norms of life. Prajnavadanscha bhashase. Gatasu nagatasuncha nanu shochanti panditaha. The actual message or preaching or sermon of Bhagavad Gita begins from this sloka. Ashochan anvashochastvam prajnavadam. This is the 11th sloka in the second adhyaya. The whole thing is preamble. For any good knowledge dissemination or any situation of Guru-Shishya interaction, it is stated that the three anukulyas are required. One is Shrotra-anukulya, Vaktra-anukulya, third is Prasanga-anukulya. See, Vaktra-anukulya means the performer or the teller, the preacher will have to be a good knowledgeable person. You can't listen to somebody who just brabs or does not know the subject at all. You will make out. I hope you are all listening to me as with Vaktranukulya character. Vaktranukulya. Then Shrotranukulya. I do experience whatever little we have got here is people are listening with attention. So the Anukulya of Shrotra. Third is Prasanga Anukulya. All this Prasanga is created. We have got the beautiful auditorium here and all of you have taken trouble to come. All this is Prasanga Anukulya. So in the present context, the Prasanganukulya was Arjuna's Vishada in the context of the warfare. Srotranukulya is a very knowledgeable person like Arjuna. And Krishna is the Vaktranukulya. So all these Anukulyas are there, and we should get the right Shastrartha as a result of these Anukulyas. So the Bhagavad Gita begins with this sloka. The first thing, moha, I will just finish by saying what are the contours of moha and how Krishna Paramatma threw them out one by one. First contour was Arjuna's misconception that death means our jiva dies. You see, then he asks the question: do you remorse because your jiva dies, or do you remorse because your deha dies? So deha is disappearing, or do you because jiva and Paramatma, according to Dvaita philosophy, do you remorse? Advaita philosophy, jiva and Paramatma is the same. In Dvaita philosophy, we say jiva and Paramatma are different. So what is your understanding of the death? You say they are killed. So what is your understanding? Jiva never does. See, jiva is always nitya, as myself. See, dehinosmin. Then death is almost as simple as your changing of clothes. The jiva goes from one body to the other. And since this body has become very dilapidated, jirna, it goes to another body. So it is very simple. So dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhiras tatra namushyati. So he says that don't worry about jiva going. And it's almost like changing of clothes. When particular clothes are malin and you change it and wear new clothes, he makes it, oversimplifies it for telling Arjuna that your remorse is not worthwhile. Then Arjuna is very clever. He says, look, I understand, I agree with you that jiva is eternal, but look at, I don't get Dronacharya in the same form if he dies. Bhishmacharya will not be there. When I get the new kingdom, all of these are not really with me. So that my sorrow is because I am not able to touch them, I am not able to talk to them, they all disappear in their forms, Then he says, what is the secret, what is the scientific source for joy and sorrow? He takes him gradually, it is very exciting to see how in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Paramatma takes Arjuna from the primary level or the nursery level to the highest level. When he comes to the 18th Adhyaya, the kinds of questions which Arjuna asks, the kinds of answers which Krishna Paramatma gives is almost a post-PhD course. It's not just nursery course. In the beginning, very simple narration, but later on, so suddenly he's taking us to that graduated level. He says, what is the theory of joy and sorrow? Do you know why do you feel joyful at times and why do you feel sad at sometimes? He says, it's not because the indriyas and the objects are in touch with each other. You see a death. Now we see so many deaths and read about so many deaths in the newspapers, see in the television. Our mind does not, cuddle so much. But if we see some relative of ours, or for that matter, why? If my dog gets, hit by somebody, just to give an example, and I feel so bad. But if I myself throw a stone at another dog, I don't feel this joy. So it is my thing. That makes you matra sparshasta kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama payino anityaha tamstiti kshasva bharata. So therefore he says that joy and sorrow are a result of your abhimana or the attachment that you have with the objects that you deal with. You remove that abhimana, vifalikuru, you tamstiti kshasva. You take out that, abstract yourself away from that, then you don't feel, you will only think that you are killing the adharmis and the perpetrators of adharma along with the adharmis. We have, the corrupt person is also to be punished. The person who perpetuated the corruption also has to be punished. So Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya were to that extent also guilty. Were culprits in a way. He does says, I am helpless because I have eaten the salt of Duryodhana, and I have to do this, and I am condemned to do this. So that's what Bhishmacharya says on some occasions. So it is not the contact between the sense organs and the objects which generates joy and sorrow, but it is the passion, it is the attachment, it is mine. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukhadukkadaha. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukhadukkadaha agamapayano. Tu is kakuswara. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Do you think that contact of the sense organs with the objects is the only thing which creates joy and sorrow? No. Along with that is a sense of attachment, abhimana. That abhimana you give up. Just as we see so many killings, so many murders, so many deaths, we don't feel that, we do feel sad to some extent, but not to the same extent as if somebody of our own kith and kin has died or is killed or something, in any accident or for that matter. So Matras is a profound principle of joy and sorrow. It is a profound theory of joy and sorrow which tells us, he says you give up this. So Jiva is Nitya, you are not killing him. Your joy and sorrow have nothing to do with your seeing the object or not seeing the object, or hearing the object or not hearing the object. So you give up. So he has removed the basic starting point of moha. And then immediately when he feels that Arjuna is convinced that he is not thinking properly, immediately he tells 10 times in the different slokas of Bhagavad Gita, Chokam ma chuchaha. So he says, do not really then think of the sorrow. Athachainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabaho naiva shochitum arhasi jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharya arthe natvam shochitum arhasi natvam. So he hits at him repeatedly by saying, moha is gone, then shoka should not be there. So then therefore your manodaurbhalya should not be there, and you should now think of doing your duty. That is how he very systematically, sequentially moves. In the same way, in our everyday life, if I get a headache, if I am depressed, if I do not have my inclination to do my job, then what you should do is to go to the root cause where it started from. X said to Y. Find and verify that. And once you are convinced, the joy, the thrill that you get is not obtained by any swallowing any pills or any drugs for that matter. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita here, even with this Vishada Yoga and the second part, I have been only able to touch the beginning of this second part, we could get at the profound principles of life which help us in everyday life. And if we apply them to this at the societal level, you would be definitely able to get a peaceful coexistence and a peaceful, happy, harmonious, welfare-oriented living for every individual and also for the society.